Hi, I'm Diamond Hardiman. I'm the Reparative Journalism Manager here at Free Press. And today we're going to talk about what journalists can learn about repair from global justice movements. In our last video, we talked about the U.S. journalism industry's history of anti-Blackness and how that legacy still impacts Black communities and other communities of color today. I was inspired to break out of journalism silos to learn from other social justice movements about how we can heal long-time harms. And what I've learned is that repair has the opportunity to bridge journalism's past to the possibilities of its future. So what can journalists learn about repair? First, truth commissions.
Seldom, if ever, in history have winners been as generous towards losers as the new leaders of South Africa have been towards the men who inflicted apartheid on them.
Many nations that have perpetuated human rights abuses have used truth commissions in the hope of resolving conflict left over from the past. In South Africa, a truth commission gathered more than 20,000 testimonies from victims of the apartheid regime, along with testimonies from some perpetrators, to try and create a more accurate public narrative of how apartheid functioned. What if truth commissions encourage journalists and storytellers to practice repair by reporting a more nuanced and accurate account of how the media have harmed BIPOC communities? One place journalists can start is by revisiting coverage of a historic event and centering perspectives and voices the original narrative excluded. Second, land back. Land back is a decentralized, global, and centuries-old indigenous movement working to protect and restore ancestral lands to the care of indigenous people.
The earth is in crisis right now, and people need the knowledge that we have.
Above all, land back prioritizes the reciprocal relationship between indigenous people and the land. This includes partnering with other groups to center indigenous values in all land stewardship and restoring indigenous sovereignty when opportunities arise. Land back goals are rooted in each indigenous nation's local context. Present-day calls to action include defending communities' water rights against oil companies, protecting ancient plant seeds, and campaigning for the return of sacred sites that monuments like Mount Rushmore sit on. What if land back encouraged journalists and storytellers to practice repair by building reciprocal relationships with BIPOC communities that publications have harmed or ignored? One place they could start is to build reciprocal relationships with indigenous people by centering their information needs throughout the reporting process. Third, reparations.
Reparations. Should America pay reparations to its Black citizens?
Reparations is a process of repairing, healing, and restoring a people injured because of their group identity. This movement is gaining momentum worldwide in response to the history of colonialism and enslavement endured by people across the African diaspora and beyond.
What do we want? When?
The matter of reparations is one of making amends and direct redress, but it is also a question of citizenship.
Calls for repair include exploring the history of racism in the United States at federal and local levels, as well as programs dedicated to addressing the Black-white wealth gap through home ownership and updates to school curricula. What if reparations encouraged journalists and storytellers to practice repair by creating holistic, ongoing processes to respond to how newspapers have fueled violence against BIPOC communities? One place journalists could start: creating an investigative series to highlight how news coverage has multiple harmful impacts on Black communities, affecting everything from jobs to housing to schools. As we look at all of these different movements from across the globe, I really hope that we can find overflowing possibilities in our capacity to respond to journalism's history of harm. We can begin doing that by prioritizing our relationships with BIPOC communities, by telling more accurate stories about past harms, and by taking a holistic look at journalism's impact on community infrastructure. But most importantly, we can look at what repair looks like to each community. So in our next video, we're going to see how repair is coming to life through storytelling, media, and journalism. Thanks, y'all.